Now, priorities. We come to priorities. A priority is something that you regard as important, right? Very important. So you need to stop and think, as Ivan, huh? As Ruth, what is important to me? What are those things, those 1, 2, or 3 things I need to do every day before my day begins, right? To help you think about your priorities, think about what's important to you, right? What legacy do you want to leave? Many times the life we are living is not the life we want to be remembered for. What do you want to be remembered for? One day, if you leave this world, how do you want us to remember you? What is that legacy? What are the things you want to do that you never ever seem to find time for? You're always making excuses. I don't have the time for that. I can't find the time for that. What are those things, right? And I want you to think about them. Either note them down mentally, write them down somewhere. Don't make the list too long, right? The longer the list, the less achievable it becomes. Even if it's just one thing, tell yourself one thing, this one thing I need to do, right? And to give us a few ideas, some people say, look, I need to study the Bible. I just never seem to find time to study the Bible, right? That can be a priority to you. It should be a priority to all of us, actually. Then the next thing is prayer. I need to find time to pray every day, right? I can't leave the house without praying. This is very important to me. Exercise. I need to exercise at least 3, 4 times in a week. You can make that a priority, right? I need to catch up on news and current affairs if you want to catch up. These are popular answers. You can see what you would want to do. I'm a student. I need to study for exams. I need to find time to study for my exams. I need to set my priorities for the day, right? I need to plan how my day is going. Some may say I want to enjoy breakfast with my family. Some may say I want to write a book. So it's really up to what is important to you. Now, what is so special about the morning? Now, it turns out that your brain is at its peak in the morning, right? Your productivity is therefore highest in the morning. The best time to study is in the morning when you're most alert. The best time to exercise is in the morning. It's not bad to exercise in the evening. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's best to exercise in the morning. It's the best time to meditate, to pray, to study the scriptures, because it's quiet, there are no distractions. It's the best time to plan your day because your day has not yet begun, right? And for most people, it is better to get the priority task done in the morning. What tends to happen is your willpower is your desire or your drive to do anything. Your willpower is like a muscle. As the day goes, it becomes tired. By the time you hit 8 o'clock, most of us are just tired to do anything, that requires a lot of focus or concentration. That's why morning is very important. But in any population, there are some people who function better at night. And usually it's about 10 to 20%. So it's not many. So if you're one of those who finds yourself very energetic at night, please apply all these principles to tonight. But for the rest of us, like me, who is just tired in the evening, I think we need to focus on the morning, and that's the majority. Now, can you get more done before the day begins? That is the question. How do you practically do that? Right? Some people may say, yeah, it's nice to say all these things, but how can I do it practically? Right? Now, so we're going to talk about practically seizing the morning. How can you make the morning work for you? The first thing is to set your personal priorities. We've talked about priorities. Then you need to track your time. We'll talk about tracking your time. You need to work through the logistics, build the habit, and adjust where necessary. So we're going to be going through each one of these points. Now, going back to personal priorities. Now, the important thing, when you set a priority, it means that you make yourself first, right? You tell yourself that this thing is important no matter what. So when you set a priority, it means that everything else, your entire schedule works around that priority. If praying is important to me and reading the Bible is important to me, the rest of my day, I work it around that. You understand? So what time I wake up, what I do, is centered around those priorities. That's why it's important to set priorities. When you set priorities, it brings fulfillment, right? For me, my 3 priorities each morning: study the Bible, pray, and 3 times a week exercise. And come rain or sunshine, I try to do those things. what it does for me is it brings fulfillment. So no matter what happens in my day to day, I worked out for 1 hour. I feel like I achieved something. It brings a sense of fulfillment. It helps you find balance in your life. You feel like you are getting those important things done in your life, whatever those important things are to you. Now, the next point is to track our time. This is how we find those 7 hours, right? This may seem tedious, but if you do it for just a week, you will see where the 7 hours are going. You can use pen and paper, you can use an app, whatever works for you, right? So you will find that you can simply list what you spend your time doing in an average day, right? And the way you finally realize that the solution to the morning dilemma lies in other parts of the day. There could be a lot of time wasters during the day. Are you sleeping too late? You can't wake up early in the morning, right? Are your kids sleeping too late? Do you need to train them to get to bed early? Are you watching too much TV? Now, the truth about TV, I think most of us will agree. It's on and you sit there and you look at it. You're not really looking at what's on the screen. Your mind is far away, but you're just focusing on that. Before you know it, it's midnight. Ooh, it's time to go to sleep. True or false? Very true. Everywhere I go to, everyone agrees that sometimes you just stare at the screen. You're not really watching. It's like a time waster. And sometimes we tell ourselves, I'm winding down, right? But before you know it, 2 hours have gone and you've been staring blankly at this screen. Are you spending too much time on your phone? On WhatsApp, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, at some point I gave up because there were too many. There's like one coming up every day. People ask me, are you on IMO? I'm like, what is IMO? Are you on this? I'm like, you know what, the ones I'm on right now are giving me a hard time as it is. So you can spend a lot of senseless time on your phone. So if you actually recorded how much time you spent on your phone, it would shock you. So this is where the 7 hours are going to. Are you spending a lot of time in traffic? How much time are you spending in traffic? Now, when it comes to the jam, elder, right, there are many things we can do in the jam. Right, we always have this discussion. So there's someone I know, is Annette here? Okay, she's not here. But Annette one day came to me, Annette Nzeyabake, she came to me and she said to me, you know, that book is so interesting. I'm like, oh, okay, but you should try this one, and even that one. Then I looked at her, I'm like, where'd you get the time to read all these books? And she's like, my dear, that jam. I wake up, I catch a taxi. It takes me an hour and a half to get to town. And I used to complain the whole way in the jam until I thought, but you know, I can actually read. So she reads in the jam. Before you know it, now we can get books on our phones, we can get books everywhere. So now before you know it, at the end of the month, Annette has read 3 books. And me, I've been sitting in that same jam and complaining. Right? Yes. She puts an audio book to your book. Yes, you can get audio books. Some are even free. You can download. You can listen to a book. You can listen to a sermon. There's something you can do in the jam. If you're in the jam with your family, use it as family time. You know, there's so much you can do with the jam. There are times when you can even opt, let me leave my car today and catch the taxi so I can read in the taxi and I'm not driving and sitting there doing nothing. So we can work around the jam. There's so many creative things we can do in the jam. So it's important. So the importance of tracking your time is to see, where am I wasting time? And you need to be honest with yourself as an individual, because those 7 hours are there somewhere in your life, right? Now, you need to think through the logistics. You need to set yourself up for success. What do I mean? If you are to wake up early in the morning, it means that you need to sleep early, right? And it's important that we sleep at least 2 hours before midnight. We should be going to bed, right? And if you decide in the morning, I want to wake up and study my Bible, put your Bible next to your bed. Put your notebook next to your bed. Put your pen next to your bed. Wake up, the Bible is right there. You don't have to start looking for it. It's in the bookshelf. Where did I leave it? So that's what I mean by setting yourself up for success. If you decide, I want to exercise, and by the way, with exercise, some people think, it's going to the gym. You can exercise in your home. You can get a DVD. You can go online, find a Zumba video, aerobics bit. You can buy a skipping rope. So if you decide in the morning, I want to wake up and skip, put your clothes for skipping next to your bed. The leggings, the shoes, the water, the skipping rope is right there. When you wake up, you don't make excuses. Straight to the skipping. That is what I mean by setting yourself up for success. And then there's certain things we take long to do. One of the things I get annoyed with, especially when I'm visiting and you're sharing a bathroom, people will spend 20 minutes in the shower. If you are that person who spends 20, please believe me, you can shower in 10. Are we together? And you can use those other 10 to do something else. So there are certain things you might take such a long time doing, which could be done in a much, much shorter time. Are we together? Can you outsource or delegate certain things that need to be done in the morning to free up your morning for you to do other things? Right? If you have a maid or a helper who can help you with certain tasks, then there are carpooling options. Sometimes you are driving out of your home, the neighbor is driving out of their home, and the other neighbor, and you're all going to the same school, and you're all fighting in the same jam. Is it possible to speak to your neighbors? Or you find 30 minutes to do something else. So carpooling options. If it's husband and wife, take turns to drop off the kids if both of you must drive, right, to free up your morning. I mentioned catching a taxi instead of driving and sitting in the taxi and reading a book or listening to an audiobook as you drive. So all I'm saying is, when you plan how to use your morning, set yourself up for success. Make it practical. Put the structures in place for you to be able to succeed, right? And when it comes to sleeping early, it's important that you eat your dinner early, right? So that by the time you're going to bed, all that food is digested. It's not going to disturb your sleep. You put away your gadgets, because your gadgets are another reason why you can't fall asleep, because you're always on the phone. The light from the phone prevents you from falling asleep because it increases your brain activity. So there are so many things that you can do to help yourself sleep earlier and sleep better. Then you need to build the habits. Now, building habits takes time. It takes perseverance, right? And it takes patience. Sometimes you will fail, but it's important that if you fail, you insist, you persist, you go back and you try again. And it's important to start small. You can tell yourself, okay, I need to be up by 5:30 for me to get everyone ready and we're out of the door by 6:30. So it means that if I want to do something extra, maybe let me wake up at 5:15, add 15 minutes, right, to your wake up time. And in that 15 minutes, try and do something small with that 15 minutes. You will, trust me, you will feel good for doing that thing. You will feel good for waking up, taking your Bible, reading, and praying that morning, right? And the next week, make it 30 minutes. You skip for 15, read your Bible, pray. You are meeting some of your goals. Are we together? So start small, don't give up, and then build on the habit. But the important thing is never to give up. You need to persist. And then, of course, sometimes you need to adjust where necessary. Don't be so rigid in your schedule. There are certain times in your life where you need to adjust. You have a new baby in the house, you are sick, you have visitors. So you need to apply wisdom on when to adjust on your schedule. Now we move on to the next secret of getting ahead at the office. Like I mentioned, work pressure is high. There are always deadlines, always meetings, always things to do, emails to respond to. So how do you get ahead at the office? Now, there's a word called efficiency. Efficiency is key in achieving maximum productivity in the workplace. So efficiency basically means that with that same time, you're at work for 8 hours. How can you maximize? How can you get more done in the same amount of time, right? Because the working day generally is about 8 hours or 9 hours long. But to be honest with you, a lot of the times we spend that 8 to 9 hours in other activities. We're going to go into that in the next stage. So what happens if you work more efficiently? When you work more efficiently, it means that you reduce the number of hours you have to stay extra at work. Sometimes we don't complete deadlines and they are needed the next day. So it means that you have to stay in the office and meet the deadline. But if you work more efficiently, you can try and get that work done within those 8 hours, right? And this means that you can leave the office early. It means that you can spend time with your family. And even your boss will be happy with you. You are delivering in that given time. Now, there's a research that was done by an online institution. They're called Voucher Cloud. And they discovered that the average office worker actually spends 2 hours and 53 minutes in the day being productive. Of the 8 hours that most workers, this was in Europe, they did the same research in America, in Australia, and I want to believe it's the same in Africa, if not worse, right? So of the 8 hours people are in the office, they actually spend 2 hours, 53 minutes working. Is that true or false? It's true. I've worked in an office before. There are many time wasters in the office. So what are those time wasters in the office? Checking social media. Sometimes I'm shocked. My people who work, 8 to 5 jobs are always on WhatsApp. Not so, you send a message, they respond very quickly. So number one time waster, social media. You'll be surprised how much time you spend on social media. So when they did this research, they actually put the time. Like most, your average worker will spend an hour and so many minutes on social media in a day, right? Reading news websites, discussing out of work activities with colleagues, aka Lugambo, that workmate who always comes to your station, they have the latest story, then you spend 30 minutes just talking, searching for new jobs. Each time I present this, the HRs are shocked. I'm like, yes, your people are spending at least 20, 30 minutes in a day looking for another job, right? Then there's smoking breaks for those who smoke. People who smoke tend to walk out of their workplaces to smoke outside, making hot drinks, tea, coffee, and the associated conversation in the tea room, right? Instant messaging, text messaging, eating snacks, making food in the office, calling partners and friends in the office. We are not saying that you should not do these things, but the more time you spend on these things, the less time you have to do your work. And the repercussion is on who? It's on you at the end of the day. So if you fail to do your work in the stipulated time, you have to eat into your family time, eat into your weekend, eat into your leisure time to complete the same tasks, right? So how do we reduce on these distractions in the office? So the first thing you need to do as a person working in an office, or even someone running their business, plan your day. What do I want to achieve today in the office? Or what do I want to achieve today as a business owner? Have a to-do list with the most important tasks at the top and the least important at the bottom. As the day goes by, as you work through your list, even if you don't get to the last one, right? The last one is the least important. At least you've done the most important at the top. So it's important for you to keep a schedule, to try and stick to it, and to try and complete it by the end of the day, right? Then you need to eliminate personal distractions. Distractions are vary depending on the type of workplace you have. It might be a talkative co-worker, someone who always wants to talk stories, right? You can politely tell them, you know what, let's meet during our tea break, let's meet during lunch break, and you can tell me your interesting story, right? Then turn off your social media alerts. I personally hate, all my notifications are off on my phone. I hate things popping up on my screen. I find that I end up spending the whole day just reply, email reply, WhatsApp reply, messenger reply. So it's important to turn off your alerts, and you control the phone. You set time. Okay, this is time to check email. Right? Sometimes we think that email is work, but email can also be a distraction. Unless you have the kind of work where you need to constantly be on email, it's important that you schedule time for checking emails and time to respond to emails. Otherwise, you'll spend the whole day reply, and you don't actually get your work done. Then it's important to schedule time to make and return calls, right? So you can put your phone away, unless if you're expecting an important or urgent call. You can also schedule time for calls. So it's important for you to say no to distractions, because it's so easy to spend the whole day focusing on the non-priority issues at work. Then the way we use our breaks, I think we all have breaks embedded into our day, whether it's a tea break or a lunch break. So it's important to use your lunch or your breaks very in a productive way. Use it to run your errands. Use it to connect with your loved ones, to check your social media, to grab a meal, drink some water, change your focus, maybe read the news websites, take a walk, chat to a colleague, whatever you want to do during your break time. And it's good to break that, work cycle. So use your breaks very wisely. Then next is to delegate. Sometimes our loads are heavy because we don't delegate. We feel like we are the only people who can get this task done. So we end up, with a full plate. So it's important that if you have people on your team who are capable, delegate some of the tasks, right? So that you can free up your time. The next thing are meetings. Meetings. If you're one of those people who is responsible for meetings in your organization, please listen very carefully. When you have a meeting, actually many people hate meetings to start off with. Research has shown that most workers hate meetings, so people don't like meeting to begin with. But if you must have a meeting, invite the smallest number of people possible. Right? Don't invite the whole department when the matter involves just 4 or 5 people. Call the people involved. And what I've found is when you have a big meeting, the ones who are not involved are the ones who talk the most, the ones who argue the most, right? And they make the meeting very, very lengthy, right? And when you meet, stick to the agenda, minimize other discussions, and reach to the conclusion as fast as possible. Sometimes a meeting will last an hour, hour and a half, when it could easily have been done in what? In 30 minutes, right? So it's important, keep it lean, keep it short, invite those that need to be there, don't invite everyone. Now, our last secret. I like telling this story, especially in circular stories, so that they can understand the point that I'm trying to make. But I believe that as Seventh-day Adventists, we will understand this even better. So if you look at this picture, this is a gentleman called Mike Huckabee. Some of us may have never seen him or heard of him, right? But I like using his example because his life inspires me, and I believe it speaks to a lot of us. So this gentleman was the former governor of a state called Kansas in the U.S. He ran for president in 2008 on the Republican ticket, right? I think he ran in the primaries, but never made it past the primaries, right? This guy has written 10 books. He wrote his 10th book last year, 10 books in his lifetime. He hosts a 3-hour radio show every single day, right? He flies from his home state in Kansas to New York to run a TV show once a week, right? So he does this every week, flies from Kansas to New York. He's an ordained pastor, an ordained Baptist pastor. And this part of the story inspires me. In 2002, he was diagnosed with diabetes. And in order to fight the diabetes, he lost almost 50 kgs because he had become so obese. And in so doing, he managed to reverse his diabetes. So he's a very determined guy. And he runs marathons. He runs several marathons each year, right? And he plays a guitar, and he plays with a band. So you wonder, where does he get the time to do all these things, right? So he does them anyway, right? And this guy is 63, just above half his age, and I don't do half of what he does, right? He does all this, he does not get burnt out, week after week after week. So someone sat him down to ask him what his secret was. And he called his secret Mike Time, right? His name is Mike. And he says that during the week, he takes one day out to catch his breath. One day where he blocks everything out, right? On this day, he goes to church with his wife. After church, they have lunch. After lunch, he goes and sits by the beach and chills, right? He says, I do nothing. I just sit there listening to nothing but the seagulls and the waves. Sits for hours just relaxing, rejuvenating, refreshing, resetting his mind. And then for dinner, he invites his friends over, he cooks for them, or they have muchomo, and they talk and they laugh the night away. So at the end of it all, when you ask him, he says, weekdays feature all the things I have to do, right? We all have to earn a living. So during the week, there are things we have to do. But then he says, my time features all the things I want to do. So Seventh-day Adventists, are you there? We need to break the vicious cycle and take a Sabbath, right? Maybe I shall be censured, but sometimes the way we SDAs keep the Sabbath, we end up working more on the Sabbath than on the other days. So the essence of the Sabbath is also refreshing, rejuvenating, right? Resetting. I believe that God brought the Sabbath because he knew that we needed to rest. Huh? You can't go 7 days a week working, right? So on the Sabbath, we should find time to worship God. On the Sabbath, we should find time to spend with those we love. On the Sabbath, we should have time to ourselves to reflect, right? We need to recharge, we need to sharpen the saw. I usually put this verse for these verses for non-Adventists, but for us, I think we can sing them in our sleep, right? So when God came up with the concept of rest, he knew that one day we would be burning out and we needed the rest. So the remedy, guys, for burnout is something we already know. It's the Sabbath. Are we together? Okay, so I've come to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be sharing these slides for those of you who are interested. And I've also put some of the other talks we do as an organization, some of the things we do. So I'll send this out with the slides. But thank you so much for listening. I will take questions if there are any questions, or comments if there are any comments. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Are these things doable? They're a challenge, huh? Okay, do we have an extra microphone? We have Prudence and then Harriet. Harriet, your hand was up? Okay, you can. I guess you can. If you can speak loudly. You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Precious. Thank you for the talk. It's very inspiring. I've learned one or two things that I'm going to apply. My question is, you talked about the Sabbath, the rest, and rejuvenating, recharging. That is on Saturday. And during the week, you're very tired. You're working hard. Now, within the week, your schedule during the day, when is fun time as a person? Is it on the Sabbath or it's on another day? Because one thing I have known with work-life balance, there is that part of fun that you need to have. That is my question.
Okay, so she's asking me when is fun time, all right? But what is fun time? Can you define what fun time is? Going for comedies. Okay, can those things not be fitted? Can't you fit that in the evenings? Because it can't be, I don't think you need like a full 24-hour day for you to enjoy. Because I wanted you to define what fun time is. Because I guess fun is different things for different people, right? So I think when we talked about setting priorities, right? Because we all want to have fun in a different way. So some of the priorities you can set as an individual, I need to do maybe date night with my husband is one thing. I need to do comedy night. But those things we can still fit in, say, around the evenings, right? Because I wouldn't want to say the Sabbath is time for us to go for comedy night. But at the same time, I don't feel like we need a whole day to schedule fun. Do you understand? So I feel that those things can be embedded as part of our priorities, as part of our day. So if you come up with your schedule, this was a very simplistic presentation where you come up with a schedule of the few things you can do in the morning. But as you progress, you can have your schedule and say, okay, Tuesday evening is fellowship, Wednesday evening, comedy night, maybe Monday evening, every first Monday evening of the month, date night. Do you understand? So you can build, if you feel those things are a priority to you, then you can build them into your schedule at some point of the day. Right? For those who have Sunday, some people get both Saturday and Sunday off, right? So if you do get Sunday off, you can also schedule some time to do some of those activities. Some people are supposed to work on Saturday, so they work on Sunday to compensate, so that may be difficult for them. So it's a matter of looking at your schedules. Your public holidays, can you do something with your family? Vacation time, can you do something with your family? Yeah. So you find a way of fitting it into your life, right? But there are certain things you can do on Sabbath. I believe going out to nature Sabbath, I wish we could have more of those. But no, there are certain things you can do on the Sabbath which are within the spirit of the Sabbath, which I believe can still be quite refreshing and rejuvenating. I think, Harriet? Would have potlucks. You go, you have lunch, you sit, you chat, and you relax. And then maybe in the evening you do a games night. So there are different ways of doing that. I've actually never heard of that. What I've heard about is the blood group and the link to food, which I totally dispute. But if you could share with us what it said. But I am inclined immediately to say I don't buy that. It's more personality than it is blood group. Yeah. Because there are some, like the melancholics are probably melancholics and the sanguines who are more prone to mood fluctuations than the. No, I've actually never heard of that. I would be keen to hear what they have to say. But what I know, most of the things I know that are linked to blood group have been disputed by research. So I would be keen to hear what that person had to say, but I've personally never come across that. Yeah. Yes, Elder. Yes.
Thank you. I'm concerned about, for example, adding value. This is important. What I am today, should I keep what I am or deteriorate or even go better and of better value? This is a world of change and development is, even we, as Christians, we are yearning for heaven because it is a better life, right? In that, if anybody proved it is worse, I tell you, all of us will become pagans. Now, in that respect, even today, if I was a peasant, tomorrow I should be a honorable. By the way, some people call me honorable and I say it's okay. Some people call me pastor, I say okay. I mean, who doesn't want you in a place they say, Pastor, come? I don't know. Then I come in. But there are people who have never thought of improving, adding value in their lives. And so as we prioritize, as we plan, we must be looking for a better living. So as we balance our work, session, and the rest, I think, there are some of us who kill ourselves even on idleness. Somebody is finished, he's tired, and what did you do? Nothing. He can't really bring out anything. 2, as many of you who are employed, now she's telling us of 8 hours. And I know that why you used to work from formal, it was 8 hours. When will you ever do your own? Do you have that plan in mind? Or you will born that job until heavens come down with Jesus Christ? Or until you die? If you wanted to do yours, when do you do it? How do you do it in a manner that you don't stress to this other really life we are denouncing? And so this is where recently I have written a book for the last 8 months, and I'm launching it before the year ends, Positive Thinking. By the way, this is my 4th book. Did you know that it is out of sacrifice and planning? Otherwise, how would I do it when I at the same time are working officially for 8 hours? But I also discovered that on the 8 hours we are talking of, people are doing other things than the real work. If you say, what did you do from morning up to the end of the 8 hours? Some of us have effectively put in about 3 hours. They're either surfing, WhatsApping. You WhatsApp, we even at official duty, on official duty. They're in emails for other things, social media. And this is why I'm saying I think we are fatigued by the lifestyle of today. And as Adventists, as children of God, wisdom and knowledge from God, we must come out and really be people of value. Not only value, but also added and improving value day by day. So it calls for thorough thinking about your own lifestyle, thorough planning, and also visioning so that you know where you want to be. I hate people who kill time, yet you even don't have where to stay. You don't even have money for construction. You don't even have your own insurance. People are running to, I know, could be other insurance promoters here. I refuse to do those. Because that is business. Or those institutions are making business. Can I also make my own business? So that I'm there today, and I'm there in the 5 and even 50 years to come, even with my children. This is the kind of focus, so that whatever we do is to balance. We don't kill ourselves now, at least we die tomorrow, but when we are organized and of value and even added value for tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Elder. We look forward to seeing your book. Any other comments or questions? Do you have comments? Yes, the back.
Yes, thank you, Doctor, for that beautiful presentation. Now, my question is, it looks like the presentation is for the traditional way of employment, because right now when I look at most of the people who are, okay, the traditional way, what I'm talking about is someone is employed, is supposed to be at work from 8 to 5. But most of the consultants that basically I'm seeing now is that you have got to work, maybe you are unemployed somewhere, but even after work, you have work. Like, you are going to be there from 8 to 5. Then after 5, you have got other different consultancies you're going to do, like designs and stuff. So it is actually rare to find someone who's going to sleep like for 7 to 8 hours. I don't know whether it is only in my circles or with everybody. So you are going to work like up to around 8 a.m., then wake up at 4 and something. I don't know which advice can you give that person, because as an employee you have got to work for your boss. At the same time, maybe you are also nurturing out a personal compound, something like that. So you have 24 hours. you have to spend 8 the side. After that 8, you have gone to spend maybe other 6 or something working on maybe somewhere else, because I've seen a number of colleagues who are going to be in some office of an employee, then after 5 or 6, they are going to run to another office where they are going to stay up to around 11 or something and continue their lifestyle like that. I don't know, which advice can you give them?
All right, and those people, are they very balanced? Are they happy? Sorry, I'm asking a question. It's really not, I would love to say it's okay, but it's not okay. It's not okay for you to be sleeping at AM, sleeping 2, 3, 4 hours. In the long run, it is definitely going to have adverse health effects on you, right? There's no things, you have pressing deadlines, you have exams to write. You can operate at that level for that period, but it's unadvisable for you to continue operating at that level for a long time, right? Many people are cutting their lives short because they are not sleeping, right? I will happily share a presentation with you which talks about what a lack of sleep can do to your body, right? So for now, when you're young, you do not feel the effects. But let's meet when you're 50. It would have degenerated your body, your brain, to an extent where you are suffering so many illnesses. So I applaud you for, being hardworking. But even in that extra work, you need to put limits, right? It can't be every day that you're doing that. It can't be every day, every week, every month for the next number of years that you are working at that level. You are just not designed to work like that. Whether or not you sleep 7 hours a day, your body still needs that sleep. Are we together? And you may not see it now. You are functioning, you are moving on. You don't feel those effects now, but one day you will feel them, right? I don't know how many of us have watched or maybe read about these top executives who just collapse and die. These people eat healthy, they exercise, but they sleep 4 hours a day. You've heard those stories, right? And these things are true. I'm not making this up. It's not fiction, right? So if you operate at that level for a long time, it is going to have its effects. Are we together? So yes, do that, hustle, but set limits for your hustle, right? If I hustle from 8 to 5, can I hustle from 6 to 9, but not every day, and still try to meet the same sort of objectives? Or when I see that my hustle is, my personal hustle is becoming, is bringing in more money, then can I leave the other job? But I can't advise you to operate at that level, for a long time, right? But I will share, if you give me your contact, I will happily share with you. It's a very great presentation where it talks about a lack of sleep and what it does to your body. Yeah. Okay.
I think my question is similar to what Enoch said. For us in academia, he's in academia, that's why he asked that. Yeah, in academia, most of the times we work till late. And for us, fun is sometimes sitting on the computer. You can sit on a computer for 24 hours straight. That is fun for us who are in research. So what do you advise? And it comes out like some Nobel Prize winners tell you that, especially in the sciences, you have to sleep in the lab because you have an experiment which is running like for 20 hours. You can't be away. So what advice do you give to us? And actually, I'm involved because for me, I can spend about like 18 hours on the computer straight, but when I'm just doing research, and I can't leave and I go and sleep, no. Because at the moment I'll go and sleep, the idea is gonna run away.
Well, my answer is really, I don't know which answer you want me to give you, which I didn't give Enoch. But it's just going to be the same. You need to work in the sleep into your schedule. In those 18 hours or 24 hours you're working, your kids are suffering, your health is suffering, so many things are suffering in the process. Are we together? Because what time do you play with, what's your daughter's name? It's just escaped my mind. Eleonai. When do you play with Eleonai when you're on the computer for 18 hours? So I would love to tell you something different, but we need to work, rest, leisure, other priorities into our scheduling. I'm trying to think 18 hours. You can't split the 18 hours, 9 hours now, 9 hours later. Would it still affect your research? I mean, I know I'm not in your life, in your shoes, but would it hurt to split, those intense hours of work? But look, ultimately, my answer is the same as his, that one day you don't want to be looking back and wishing that you had taken that time off, because when we do get sick, our bodies stop us, right? When you're in that hospital bed, when you have that diagnosis, you have to stop everything else. Suddenly your health becomes a priority. But what I'm simply saying now is you can make your health a priority in very small ways. Small ways like 30 minutes of exercise, small ways like sleeping 7 hours a day. Then you won't have that huge bill to pay in the future. So the choice is ours. My job is to present the facts as they are. How we digest them and apply them to our lives is really up to us, right? But the facts as they are will not change. So let's try and work some of these things into our schedules. Like I mentioned, even these people I'm talking about, these CEOs, these famous people, they find time to sleep. They find, and yet they still have time to achieve amazing things. When you don't sleep, those hours you spend working are not as effective as if you had slept, right? So 5 hours of work when you have slept the previous night is 5 hours of work. But if you have not slept, 5 hours of work can even be 1 hour of work. So you're counting that you're working 18 hours, but because you've not slept, your productivity is not at its peak. Yet if you actually sleep, you could do the same work in 6 hours because your mind is rested. So we need to find time to rest. And I want to tell you that money is good, but it is not everything, right? One day we shall have all the money in the world, but this body cannot be bought. Are we together? And then I'll come to you.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm worried actually, because my mom told me from childhood I had no sleep. Even simple cockroach could wake me up. So as I grew up to now, even when I go to bed at 9 or 10, I just can't sleep up to 1 or 2. So for me, I've used all that time. I keep using that time to do other things, doing analysis and what on computer. No, I'm not a fan of WhatsApp. I take too long to be on WhatsApp and social media, but doing other work. So I'm just like, I don't know whether rest can mean not actually sleeping, but also being in bed. But personally, sleeping for 7 hours, I've never done it since I was a little boy, at least from my mom. So I don't know what I'm going to do.
Okay, so do you feel, how many hours do you sleep? Up to what time? So how many hours is that? Like 5 hours or 6 hours? Okay. Well, and you feel rested, you feel refreshed, you don't feel tired? You have no issues, you're fine. Okay, all right. So, okay, fine. This is a very interesting case. But then it would be interesting to talk more to him, to get more out of him. But I don't want to make a judgment based on just what you've told me here. But when research is done, in every research there are averages. Are we together? So the average time required for sleep is 7. Some people may be able to do it 6 or slightly less. Some people may actually need more than 7. But for most of us, the minimum amount of sleep is 7 hours. But I didn't want to say that because some of you walk away saying, me, I'm the one of 5. And you move ahead with your bad habits thinking that you need 5 when you actually need 7. So the reasons for you, you're saying you've been like that since you were young. Maybe it's a different case. But for most of us who are there on the computer and we keep ourselves up in other areas, that's a totally different ball game. Yes. Yeah. Midnight, yes. For 7 hours. Okay. Okay. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Mhm. 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 Okay, all right. So the body has something. I used to put it in my presentation. It's called the biological clock or the circadian clock. And what happens is there are certain specific things which happen when your body sleeps at night, not during the day. Are we together? These things only happen at night, right? Because our bodies, we have an interaction with the sun, right? That's why we need a lot of sunlight, right? And so what tends to happen is when it begins to get dark, our bodies begin to release a hormone called melatonin, which makes us sleep, right? And then when it hits midnight, 1, 2 o'clock, thereabouts, our bodies start releasing growth hormone. Growth hormone is responsible for renewing our cells. Growth hormone is important for, it stimulates our brain to store information, right? So if you miss that window when that hormone is supposed to be released, it means that even if you sleep in the day, those same things are not going to happen. You understand? So why it's important for you to sleep before midnight is because your body has a clock, a rhythm. And what sets off that rhythm is going to sleep at the right time. If you do not go to sleep at the right time, or if you do not go to sleep for long enough, those things do not happen. Right? So what tends to happen in the long run, your body begins to degenerate. First thing that happens is your ability to remember facts is affected. Because as you are sleeping, do you know what your brain is doing? It is storing and filing information in a systematic way in your brain. So the less sleep you have, or the later you sleep, you disrupt the ability of your brain to store that information. So number one, you begin to, your collection or your recollection of facts is actually affected. Personally, I've seen it happening to me. There are times when I have insomnia, and I forget so easily. Yeah, I'm starting to think, like even now, saying your daughter's name, it's there. Because I've been having insomnia lately. But so you can't remember things, right? But then also it begins to affect your muscles, your cells, your heart, so it affects many different parts of your body. So that's why when you find there are people who work night shifts, but it is illegal to have people who work night shifts all the time. Are we together? So in hospitals, what they tend to do is, I'm working nights this week, but next week that person will not be working nights. They work during the day, and then when they work nights, they work 3 nights, and they have 3 days off, right? Where they are not working completely, right? So you can't work at night all the time. I remember there's a time when we were at medical school, if you went for 2 days without sleep, you cannot function. Impossible. So that's why even for those people who have the kind of jobs where they work at night, they put other measures in place. 1 week you're working nights or for a number of days, they give you days off. The other week you're working during the day. Because human beings cannot function like that. So daytime sleep is not equal to nighttime sleep. Nighttime sleep is best. Yeah. Okay, I think we've come to it's 4 o'clock. I believe there's a church board meeting. I think I'll invite Elder to come and say some closing remarks. And we can go for our different meetings.
Thank you so much, Dr. Precious. And thank you. Where's my director? Thank you. And again, thank you for attending. We at the department, we felt that this year we'll be looking at lifestyle, much more to do with preventive. And of course, the medical people make more money where they are treating. And they spend less on looking for preventing medicine. Now, again, such we have to pay. But the advantage of being in this church is to get this information freely. Now, since you've gotten it freely, please pass it on. I have some bit of experience at my age. There are these motivational speakers who used to talk to us. A man, you can't sleep. You can't sleep for 5, 8 hours. Where do you get that time? A man will sleep for only 4 hours. Indeed, I did that. For about 10 years, I would sleep at almost towards midnight. And by 4:46, I conditioned my body to wake up, whether I'm in this country or outside. The consequences were big. At one time, I developed hypertension. Later, I discovered that actually your productivity goes down when you sleep less. A person who has slept 7 hours cannot compare with somebody who has slept 8. The doctor was very choosy when she was using her words. 7 is minimum. But ideally, somebody of 8 is better than that of 7. Now, as you continue sleeping less, at 4 hours, your productivity drops up to 26%. Can you imagine? 26%. Now the question is, how come they don't know? They are actually sleeping, so they can't know that their productivity is not there. Only what happens is, they will not hit the deadlines. They'll be stressed all the time. You'll find them in Parliament sleeping. Is there somebody in Parliament here? They'll be sleeping when serious business is taking place. Even in church, we will be sleeping. You see? So let's respect the clock, because this internal clock is very serious. Your cock, how many of us have cocks in their homes? They have a specific time when they'll go, you know? Yes. And it's nature. And we can't fight nature, friends. I thank God for the Sabbath. I thank God because my priority is so clear. On Sabbath, I'll be here. But when I'm here and I'm not resting, it's a disservice to me. Do we get it? So let's have enough time for our loved ones, for our children, for the jobs we do, for everything that we do, so that we don't lose heaven because we've chosen to take things in our own hands. We don't surrender it. We carry the entire baggage, and it ends up weighing us down. Praise God. Amen. Let's stand up and pray. Eternal Father in heaven, you are so loving. That's why in the creation story you chose to have day and night. That's why we even have a weekly rest. That's why in a year we are supposed to have at least a month of resting, and even one sabbatical year of allowing our land to rest. May we do that as we prepare for the heavenly rest, where we'll be with you in eternity. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.